Hi, Sandra here from Creating Spain, and today I'm going to do 5 crafty tips. My first one today is adding your own glitter, and in this case mylar bits as well, to your clear embossing powder to make a sparkly mix. Now I've got about 4 teaspoons of clear embossing powder in here. It's a chunky one, it's UHT. And I have about a teaspoon in total of bits added to it. I have some stamped Versamark on there. Now I will say, to do this, you have to be careful that your Versamark is wet enough, and you also need to make sure that you don't hit it with too much air before it melts, because otherwise your glitters and things are just going to go everywhere. So, and that's what it is. Now in this particular instance I haven't picked up any mylar, but that's just luck of the draw. Gone over it twice, and I'm going to put that to one side to put back into my container. On goes the heat gun. And there you can see you've got a really nice glitter embossing powder. So, number 2 is related to number 1. If you are stuck for a stamping block, you can use a glass coaster. No reason why not. This one happens to have a pattern on the reverse of it, which I happen to do at some point with some texture paste. It's a transparent one still. But there is absolutely no reason why you can't use that for your stamping if you have one which is made of glass. If it already has a pattern on it, you can use acetone to remove any paint, but I don't even bother to take the little dimples off the base because there's no need to, and you can use either side. Okay, for tip number 3, you can make your own polymer stamps at home if you have the time, the inclination and the supplies. Photopolymer liquid, a nail lamp, preferably one which you change out the bulbs. These are LED UV lamps, and I turn them to the back because they're very, very powerful. But this is what they look like, and you need the ones that rotate. So you need some glass plates. You either need foam tape or plastic frames like the ones that I make, and you want an electronic timer. And other than that, I use tracing paper and some cellophane. Tracing paper to print my negative onto, and the cellophane to make the sandwich. If you're interested in that, I have a 40 videos in my playlist, and I will put a link to the playlist and where you could get this sort of thing below. As it happens, you can also use this to top up your Versamark embossing pads if you need to. It does the job extremely well, and it's probably what they use in the first place. And I've been doing that for a couple of years and it's fine. So I never buy any Versamark top-up inks. I don't need to because I've got a supply of this. I forgot to mention earlier regarding the stamp making gel, you can actually mix glitter into it if you want to. And if you put it between 2 glass plates or 2 pieces of acetate, you will end up with what is like a rubberized piece of plastic. And it will actually adhere all by itself. You need to clean it off with alcohol to make it less sticky, but it will adhere all by itself to certain surfaces. It just has that slight tackiness to it. Now you may be thinking, what on earth use is that? Well, okay, the glitter was a little bit of fun, but if you made that into sheets and you have any die cuts that you can die cut in one piece, if you were to put that between a couple of pieces of paper, or maybe just one, I'm guessing, I don't know this, but I'm guessing that you could cut that out and use it as a stamp. Maybe worth trying for anyone who's actually got any of this already and a die cut machine. It may well be worth trying. It's flexible, but it's not extremely sort of giving, and I mean, this is very thin, it's only about 1 millimetre thick at the most. Yeah, just an interesting thought. Next one, Eileen's Tack It Over and Over. This is I think it's a rubberized adhesive. It is absolutely brilliant for renewing your sticky mats for your cutting machines. You need a very, very small amount of this. Use something like this DIY spatula to spread it very thinly, allow it to completely dry, and you'll have a nice tacky surface. Now obviously you need to clean your mat up first before you retack it, and when it gets so that it's not very sticky anymore, just wash it with warm soapy water and the tackiness will return. So that is really good to know. My next tip is these Chroma Colors airbrush colours. They are designed for food use. They're actually made in the USA, and I've had these for several years and I adore them. I've got a set of 12. Now, I am not talking about using this for food use, although I do from time to time make cakes and use them in an airbrush for that. What I'm talking about is using them for art use. The entire set of 12, I think at the time, cost something like £35, and there's an awful lot of colour in there. There's a lifetime supply of colour. You can mix and match them, you can mix them to make other shades and colours, and they are really nice. Now I've got some here which I've put in with some water, and you can see it still has a really nice deep colour. Now I would use this, I'm just going to scrap of paper, I would use this as I would normally use a watercolour. Now the great thing is that if you have water brushes, the empty variety, you can use this to fill them and use them just as you would those much dearer watercolour water brushes that you get ready filled. If you've got your water brushes, your coloured ones already, then you can refill them with this if they're refillable, because you do not have the powders that you'll get in a lot of solid watercolour pigments, or indeed other forms of inks and so forth. Now the other thing is that if you actually mix it with alcohol instead of water, you will get an alcohol ink. Now, this may not work because I've already diluted that with water, but I've got some photo paper here and I'm going to put some of this into it. So, just a little bit of that. And it will behave like the alcohol inks do when you add more alcohol. So again, you can use this instead of buying a separate lot of inks. And it may not do it because I've already added water, but if you mix it directly with the alcohol, it will dry in the same way, and indeed can be used on acetates and things like that. This is going to take a while to dry, however. Now, if you do mix it directly with alcohol, sometimes it changes the look of the colour in the bottle. I tend to use little eyedropper bottles, and I just add a tiny drop of colour to the eyedropper bottle and I fill it up with alcohol. And sometimes what happens, and it depends on the colour that you're using, it turns into, like if I use the purple, when I put it into the bottle, it looks like it's pink. But in actual fact, when I go to use it on the paper, when it dries as the shade of purple. So you may want to do some experimenting with that. The advantage of this, of course, is that if you do happen to want to do any cake decorating, you can use it for that as well. If you want to use it in an airbrush, it's brilliant. You can use it through your airbrush. If you've got an old makeup airbrush that you no longer use, clean it out and start putting this through it and use it for your craft stuff. It will work brilliantly. So a very good buy and well worth the money. If you have a Versamark pad that you have going spare, and you want to be able to see where you're actually stamping your images, because with Versamark being transparent, it's virtually invisible on some surfaces, You can also use some of this diluted ink on top of your pad. If you're doing this, you can refresh your pad with glycerin. If it's completely dried out, just put some glycerin on it and you can add this. Glycerin is water soluble, this is water soluble, and so it won't make any difference. You can apply as much or as little as you like in order to be able to see your stamped image. Okay, this one is for those of you who might be into doing your own nails and you've got some unwanted gel polish colours. If it doesn't have the sticky residue, you can use this in your crafting projects. If you want to add little dots of colour, you can do it quite easily with this. Just put it under the lamp for a few seconds afterwards and you don't have to wait for it to dry.